manual. Volume 1 only takes you up to the nascent soul stage. But master the whole thing and you can reach the Grand Dao physique. You didn't dwell on it too long. You turned to the remaining barbarians and waved them off. Basically told them to get lost. But to prevent more immortals from coming down, you decided to take out every last cultivator in the area. After that, life went on. After crushing the barbarian cavalry, the Great Song dynasty not only held the border, they actually expanded their territory. And word started spreading among the people about the Imperial Advisor who wiped out a barbarian army with his bare hands. Meanwhile, right now, you were riding in a carriage toward the Great Song capital to meet the Emperor. But the next second, another system notification popped up. Luck activated. Earned nationwide worship from the people of Great Song. Dragon Aura plus 45. You chuckled to yourself. Then you started mapping out your future plans. Right now, aside from you, there's only one immortal left in this world. And he's in seclusion. Upper realm immortals don't usually come down here, so you just need to lay low, grind your cultivation a little each year, and wait until you're strong enough to head up there yourself. Meanwhile, back in the upper realm, inside the Fuyao immortal sect, an elder made his way to a cave entrance. He bowed and called out, "Elder, greetings," requesting an audience with the Holy Maiden. The elder had barely finished speaking when the cave door made a sound, and two eyes appeared, staring straight at him. No need for an audience. The Holy Maiden's busy. Just say what you need from out there. The elder reluctantly nodded and said, "The sect master sent me to notify the Holy Maiden, to attend the 10,000 sects grand gathering and strengthen ties with the other sects. He also asks the Holy Maiden to focus on her cultivation, so she can make a grand showing in 1,000 years." But the door didn't bother relaying any of this to Xiaoyan, because Xiaoyan could hear every word herself. She just didn't feel like dealing with it. Ever since arriving at Fuyao Immortal Sect, she'd seen way too much flattery and backstabbing. She knew these elders were all just after something. She let out a sigh. The deeper she got into the immortal world, the more she missed her days back in Waxy Town. Missed that guy, Qian Qiu, who actually treated her with sincerity. Then the scene cuts. Back to you. You were meditating when the Great Song Princess suddenly walked in. Imperial Advisor. This trip to the capital, I promise it won't disappoint you. You gave an indifferent nod. I'm sure it won't disappoint me. Because honestly, I didn't have any expectations to begin with. The princess's smile froze. She had no idea how to respond to that. After a moment of hesitation, she nervously worked up the courage to ask, "Advisor, what do you think of the Great Song dynasty?" You replied flatly, "Not much to say. It's like any other dynasty, really. As long as there's no famine or war, it's fine." You paused for a second. But history always moves forward. Your dynasty might end up as just one page in the history books. Hard to say. The princess listened, then couldn't help but push back. "But Great Song has you! You're our Imperial Advisor!" You just waved it off. "I could just as easily be a Tang Dynasty official, or an advisor to some other kingdom, and I won't be in any history books, ever." The princess gave a bitter nod, then excused herself and left. On the road, the emperor had arranged an absolutely over-the-top escort. Exotic delicacies, fine wine, beautiful attendants, everything you could want, ready to serve you at any moment. But you completely ignored all of it, and just sat in the carriage thinking about your own power level. The stronger you got, the more you realized just how terrifying that giant hand was. The one that flattened a city right when you first arrived. Even now at 35 power points, you can only wreck a fortress, nowhere near one-shotting an entire city, and leaving a crater hundreds of miles wide. And that was while he was suppressed by the Heavenly Tao, no less. You figured that's just what Grand Emperor-level beings are like. You sighed, shook it off, and went back to grinding cultivation. The next day, the carriage finally pulled into the imperial capital, crowds of citizens cheering on both sides of the road. And the moment you arrived at the palace gates, the last person you expected suddenly showed up. It was the Great Song Emperor himself, Song Baiye, frantically asking the princess, "The advisor! Where's the Imperial Advisor?" The princess just pointed at the carriage. Basically, you were still inside. The emperor immediately rushed over and clasped his fists outside the carriage. "Song Baiye requests an audience with the Imperial Advisor." Total silence from inside. The atmosphere got real tense real fast. A whole quarter-hour passed before you finally stepped out, squinting at the man in front of you. "Who are you?" The emperor immediately bowed again. "I am the Imperial Advisor's most loyal follower, the Emperor of Great Song. Song Baiye." You gave a little nod. Not bad, good manners. The emperor kept going, bowing even deeper. "The Imperial Advisor is like a second father to Great Song. It's only right." You raised an eyebrow and joked, "So by that logic, I'm your dad?" The second those words came out, every official on the scene tensed up, all eyes glued to the emperor, wondering what he'd do. Nobody expected what happened next. The emperor clasped his fists, looked you dead in the eye, and shouted, "Father!" The entire court was floored. You were a little caught off guard yourself. You never expected this emperor to be this flexible. You nodded and went along with it, then figured you'd take a look around the palace. But the moment you walked into the back garden, you froze. There was a massive statue standing there, and looking closer, it actually kind of looked like you. The emperor beside you eagerly explained, apparently to honor your contributions, they'd built hundreds of these statues and placed them all across the country. You were low-key speechless. You wandered around a bit longer, then headed straight out of the palace and dove into the streets. Just outside the palace, not far away, a street vendor was hollering, hawking fruits and candied hawthorn sticks. You walked over, asked about the prices, and started chatting with him. Right in the middle of your conversation, a bright, peppy voice piped up nearby. "Hey, one iced sugar pear, please." The vendor quickly grabbed one and handed it to the girl standing there. You glanced over, a pretty young girl in a light yellow dress, grinning the sweetest smile. You'd lived for decades and seen plenty of girls. Nothing usually caught your eye anymore. But then you watched this girl part her lips and pop the entire pear into her mouth. And you couldn't help but stare. The bodyguards shadowing you nearby immediately panicked, exchanging glances in the shadows. The advisor has been staring at that girl for a while now. Should we? But none of them dared to act. Right in the middle of this tense moment, the girl's handmaid leaned over and whispered, "My lady, that man over there keeps looking at you." The girl still had the candied pear in her mouth when she dumbly turned around and locked eyes with you. Her face flushed instantly. She quickly spun back around. Why does he keep staring? He doesn't like me, does he? But he's kinda cute though. Should I look again? Just as she was going back and forth on it, you were about to head out, when suddenly an arrow of sharp energy shot straight at your skull. But you caught it with one hand without even flinching. Then an old man appeared out of nowhere. Impressed. Immortal level power really is something else. You gave him a look, mildly curious. A cultivator. Here for revenge? The old man smiled. Revenge? Not quite. I just want to use the 10,000 people in this area as leverage to negotiate with you. You scratched your head a little exasperated. Great. People found out I'm actually a decent person. And now you've got the nerve to negotiate with me? The old man flashed a smug grin. We cultivators specialize in large-scale techniques. We can kill 2,000 or 3,000 people in an instant. You really willing to let them die? He formed a seal with one hand. And the moment I cast this, that girl over there dies too. You heartless enough for that? While he was still trying to talk terms, you suddenly shook your head with a sigh. I can't stop you, so I guess all I can do is avenge them afterward. The old man's smugness vanished, replaced by panic. He snapped, "You're the Imperial Advisor of Great Song. How can you even think like that? You're supposed to protect them at all costs." You frowned. "You're the one trying to kill people. I can't stop you, so I'll just kill you instead." The old man tried to say more, but you just turned to the girl in the yellow dress. "Stay close to me. I'll make sure you don't die." She instinctively stepped closer to you. The old man clocked it immediately. Tried to react, but you already sliced him clean in two. Even then, the half of his face still left broke into a cruel smile. "See? You do care. My partners are already casting their spell. They're all going down with me." You just calmly nodded. Right as you finished him off, you caught a faint sound of seal forming in the distance, sharp as a pin drop. Next second, dragon energy burst from your fingertips and instantly obliterated that presence. The bodyguards nearby saw everything. They rushed over, dropped to their knees, and bowed. "We failed to protect you, my lord. Please punish us, Imperial Advisor." You blinked, then let out a small laugh. "I seriously don't need you protecting me. Go home, stop following me around." You said your piece and walked away, heading back to the palace. That night, there was a knock at your door. A soft, shy voice came through. "Imperial Advisor, may I come in?" You thought it sounded familiar but couldn't place it, so you just said, "Come in." A figure stepped inside. It was the girl who had swallowed that whole pear in one bite. Her head was down, face completely flushed, not daring to look at you. She quietly greeted you. "Good evening, Imperial Advisor." You just casually asked, "What's your name?" She answered softly, almost in a whisper. "My name is Qingyao." "It's an honor to meet you, Imperial Advisor." She'd barely finished speaking when you stepped a little closer. Then, looking genuinely curious, you asked, "Earlier today, when you bought that candied hawthorn, you popped the whole pear in one bite, didn't you?" She nodded, embarrassed. Her face went even redder. You grinned, just a little devious. "Impressive. Because I actually have a favor I need from you. Something I've always wanted to try." Qingyao looked at you with wide eyes, clearly confused, sensing there was something more behind what you said. Then you kept going. This thing, no man could possibly say no to, and you kept inching closer and closer to Qingyao. She started to panic, face burning as you kept closing the distance. Then you stopped and smiled. "Can you eat a whole roast pig in 3 bites? Can you eat a whole roast pig in 3 bites? Qingyao was stunned, staring at the roast pig that had just appeared in your hands, barely believing what she was seeing. But she went ahead and started eating anyway. Didn't even need 3 bites. She finished it in 2. You looked at her, cheeks stuffed to the brim, and couldn't help but laugh. Then you asked, "So why'd you come here anyway?" Qingyao lowered her head and said quietly, "My father sent me. He said the Imperial Advisor had taken a liking to me and asked me to come serve you." After saying that, her face went absolutely crimson. She couldn't even bring herself to look up at you. You nodded and agreed. "True, I did take a liking to you. I mean, 2 bites for a whole roast pig? That tells me my taste is solid." That said, you didn't actually have her serve you. Instead, you pulled out a chessboard and challenged her to a game. But every single time Qingyao was about to win, you'd pull some excuse to stop her. The girl just laughed helplessly, thinking it was wild that the legendary Imperial Advisor played chess like a sore loser. You played the whole night. By the end, Qingyao was basically in tears. And she finally pulled out her last resort, acting cute. She pouted, "Imperial Advisor, can you just let me win 1 round?" You shook your head. In any competitive game, once you start letting people win, it stops being fun. Qingyao actually thought about it and nodded. She looked at you. "You're right, it's not fun." You paused for a second. Then you quietly muttered to yourself, "She's so cute though. If I punched her, she'd probably cry for a really long time." Qingyao frantically wiped the tears forming in her eyes, glared at you with all the seriousness she could muster. "Please, for the love of everything, and spare me." Time passed, just teasing this little girl. A year into living in the palace, you found yourself wandering around again with nothing to do. But barely a few steps in, Song Baya popped up again out of nowhere. He grinned and greeted you. "Father, I've already ordered every city in Great Song to build statues of you. For the people to bow to every year. Just pick a date." You blinked. "I'm not a wishing machine. Why are people bowing to me?" Song Baya quickly explained. "You single-handedly drove back the barbarians. and protected all of Great Song. You're basically a guardian deity. The people's worship is only right. Honestly, all the flattery left you a little flustered, so you just told him to handle it however he wanted. But once Song Baye had it all set up, you were in the middle of closed-door cultivation when a notification suddenly pinged. Luck activated. Annual Imperial Advisor Day. Nationwide worship complete. Dragon Aura. Progress. 100%. You lit up immediately. Getting stronger while doing literally nothing? This is insane. And just like that, your Dragon Aura evolved into Linglong Aura. You skimmed the description, and just as you were about to test it out, a bright voice rang out. Qiangqiu Gege! The board's all set up. Come play another round. It was Qing Yao. She'd officially become your personal attendant by now, and after a year together, the two of you had gotten pretty close. She'd taken to calling you Qiangqiu Gege, and the moment you heard her call out, you just casually shuffled back inside to play chess. A few days later, you took Qing Yao and left the palace. Out in the open fields, Qing Yao stood there looking nervous, holding a big kite in her hands, and asked you worriedly, Qiangqiu Gege, what if the kite doesn't fly? You smiled. It'll fly. Just run a couple steps and it'll go up. She took off running the second you said that. She kept trying and trying, but the kite just wouldn't take off. She finally stopped and complained, Qiangqiu Gege, this kite won't fly. But the second she said that, a gust of wind hit out of nowhere, blowing through her hair and lifting the kite right up into the air. Qing Yao got so excited she turned and yelled at you, Qiangqiu Gege, the kite's flying. You smiled and nodded. The wind was really strong today, and the kite climbed high. Qing Yao looked over at you with a big smile. Qiangqiu Gege. Can we fly kites together again next time? You looked at her and smiled. Sure. But you didn't say when next time would be. Life always comes with goodbyes. And with a lifespan that never ends, you knew you shouldn't get too attached to anyone. It wouldn't be good for either of you. Time flew by. Before you knew it, it was your third year in the palace, the dead of a snowy winter. You got up without any rush, and in the white blanketed silence, slipped out of the palace without a sound. Next door, Qing Yao woke up and started knocking on your door. Qiangqiu Gege, get up! Qiangqiu Gege, stop sleeping in! But nobody answered. She went in, and found everything exactly as you'd left it. All your stuff was still there. You just weren't. She frantically called out your name, but no matter how many times she called, there was nothing. Eventually, she found a single page, a farewell letter, you'd written asking her to check outside. She walked out in tears, and about 10 meters away sat a lopsided little snowman, a broom sticking out of it, like it was waving goodbye. Qing Yao waved back through her tears, and then with a thud, the snowman collapsed, revealing a book hidden inside, the Xuanhun Dao scripture. Half a month later, the news that the imperial advisor had left the palace couldn't be contained anymore. It spread everywhere. Officials across every province started getting anxious, all of them plotting how to get on your good side if they ever ran into you. And the martial world, with you gone, started stirring again, wilder than ever. 8 years later, the martial world kicked off a brand new round of voting for the top 10 fighters. And to top it off, they launched the Grand Martial Arts Tournament. Everyone started flooding toward the host city. But you? You're just chilling by the river, lazily yawning away. A middle-aged dude nearby noticed and called out to you. Hey bro, why haven't you taken the boat out yet? It's almost noon. Good business is coming your way. You just shook your head. I'm not here to make money, I just want to row. Seeing how unbothered you are, the guy sighed and kept going. Dude, you've been here 2 years. Go make some money, find yourself a wife. But you just laughed it off. I'll just wait for her to come find me. The guy cracked up and didn't push it any further, just walked away. You headed back inside the boat. The Great Turtle Breath technique was close to completion, and you'd been feeling lazier than ever. You pulled up your stats panel and checked your spirit dragon energy. The offerings from worshippers were getting smaller and smaller. At this rate, it'd take 200 or 300 years just to max it out. But honestly, you didn't really care. For the past 8 years, you'd been dumping all your points into luck. Strength was still sitting at 35. Magic power, 0. But luck had shot all the way up to 13 points. Now fish literally jumped into your boat out in the open water. Just a normal Tuesday for you. Finding money on the side of the road, even easier. But you felt like it still wasn't enough. You knew that with high enough luck, anything was possible. And right while you were checking the panel, people started showing up on the riverbank one by one. They started buzzing and talking among themselves. One guy kicked things off. So this tournament, who do y'all think is gonna take first place? Before he even finished, everyone started going back and forth at once. Some said it'd be the legendary swordsman Zuo Feiyang. Others were betting on the court eunuch 9,000 years. Things got pretty heated real quick. But then one question dropped, and the whole crowd went dead silent. What about that person? You think the immortal's gonna show up? Everyone froze the moment they heard that. Then someone hesitantly started sharing their take. They figured you'd either ascended to the immortal realm, or the ascension failed and you just didn't make it. That's why no one's heard from you. But they'd barely gotten 2 sentences out before someone cut them off hard. You just sat there, speechless. At this rate, in a few more years, they'll probably say you reincarnated. Just as you were about to head in and rest, more chatter drifted over from outside. Apparently, a new powerhouse had popped up in the martial world, calling himself the Little Immortal. Word was he might be a chi cultivator from overseas. Supposedly knows all kinds of divine arts and techniques. And since you'd been off the grid for so long, he started making moves inside Song territory. After that, the group didn't say much more. They left to find a boat to cross the river. After hearing all of it, you stepped out of the cabin for the first time in a while. You stood at the river's edge, hands behind your back, let out a slow, quiet breath. You found what they said pretty interesting. People always obsessing over something called the martial world. But what even is that? If you had to answer, it's simple. Wherever you stand, that's the martial world. And with that, you set off towards your destination. You've now arrived at the Grand Martial Arts Tournament, blending into the crowd. You spotted 2 fighters up on stage, locked in a standoff. From the whispers around you, you pieced together that these 2 were Zuo Feiyang and 9,000 years. They were going all out in a final clash for the #1 spot. Sword energy and raw power kept colliding. and after a few exchanges, 9,000 years came out on top. Just as he cracked a satisfied smile, you noticed a white-robed young man with a red mark between his brows, slowly stepping out onto the stage. He smirked and said, 9,000 years, ever heard the one about the snipe and the clam? The fisherman always wins. 9,000 years frowned. He recognized this guy. This was the overseas little immortal who'd been making waves lately. He knew this wasn't a friendly visit. He channeled Gangchi into both hands, keeping his guard up as he sized up the newcomer. The white-robed young man just kept smiling and said, I've already drained the blood and inner power of over a dozen top fighters. Now I'll take yours too. Use the song Martial World as a stepping stone to reach immortalhood. Right as he finished talking, he summoned a pagoda. The next second, it blazed with a blinding light. 9,000 years inner power started draining rapidly into the pagoda. Just as the white-robed man thought he had it in the bag and started laughing maniacally, the sky and earth suddenly shifted, like the wrath of heaven itself was about to come down. A massive lightning bolt came crashing straight down toward the white-robed man. He scrambled to release his spiritual energy, barely managing to shield himself. Then, out of nowhere, a laid-back voice cut through the chaos. Didn't I make myself clear? Overseas key cultivators. I kill every single one I see. You're looking for death. With that, you appeared in an instant. The white-robed man saw you and immediately tensed up. He forced a smile and said, We're both walking the path of immortality. We're on the same side. You shouldn't be stopping me. The second he finished, you couldn't help but point right at him. You laughed and said, Who gave you the audacity? To compare a lion and an ant like they're the same thing? The white-robed man visibly tensed up and quickly tried to defend himself. But we both practice divine arts and immortal techniques. We're both! He was still going when you raised your hand and cut him off right there. That's not an immortal technique, that's a parlor trick. Then with one hand you reached out, and a colossal lightning dragon claw burst straight down through the storm clouds. The next second, in front of everyone's stunned eyes, it knelt at your side. You smiled calmly. The white-robed man stared at what just happened, his body trembling uncontrollably, and you just kept talking cool as ever. When you were overseas, I couldn't even be bothered to come find you. But you had the nerve to step foot in Song territory? Then leave your life here. With a single pointed finger, the lightning dragon shot straight toward the white-robed man. And just like that, he was gone. The martial artists around you stared at the scene, too stunned to say a word. You just gave a casual wave. Y'all go ahead, don't mind me. I'm just here to watch. You formed a hand seal, and just like that, a brand new arena materialized out of thin air. But nobody moved. Everyone was still frozen stiff right where they stood. You rubbed your chin and sighed. Alright, fair enough, I probably shouldn't have shown up here. I mean, immortal cultivators and martial artists just don't mix. And in a flash, you were gone. After the Grand Martial Arts Tournament wrapped up, every martial artist who witnessed the Immortal's power started falling in line under the Imperial Court. The court ended up bringing a full 80% of the martial world under its control. And the martial world, it just wasn't the same wild, free-spirited place it used to be. Time flew. 10 years, just like that. A rare massive snowfall blanketed the entire land. Even the Imperial Palace was buried under thick layers of snow. A lone figure stood quietly outside, watching the servants shovel snow in silence. One sharp-eyed servant spotted her and immediately bowed respectfully. This servant greets Lady Yueji. Qingyao gave a small nod and waved them off. Go ahead and do your thing, don't worry about me. And with that, she quietly walked away. In the year since you left, the Song Emperor had personally bestowed upon Qingyao the title of Lady Yueji. Her status was even higher than a first-rank court official, all simply because she had once been your handmaiden. The Emperor also noticed that Qingyao hadn't aged a single day over all these years. Completely untouched by time, he figured she must have received your teachings and successfully stepped onto the path of immortality. And even though you'd been out of the picture for a decade, he was still too scared to have any ill intentions. At this moment, Qingyao stood there gazing blankly at the snow falling before her. Her thoughts slowly drifted far away, as if carried back to the past. She thought she saw a snowman with a broom stuck in it, slowly waving at her. Her eyes started to well up. She couldn't help but wonder, what if that wave wasn't a goodbye, but an invitation to come along? She missed you. Tears began streaming down her face, and the longing, just like the snow, wouldn't stop. In the blink of an eye, decades had passed. Early spring had quietly arrived. A lone figure walked through the mountain valley, hoe in hand. Over these years, you'd finally found the life that suited you best. Farming, watching crops ripen and fruit trees grow tall. It gave you a whole new understanding of time. And whenever you had downtime, you'd mess around with strange plants, just to keep things interesting. On top of that, you'd pushed your luck all the way to 40 points and unlocked a hidden achievement, Lucky 1. The effect, lucky boost on major events. And on small things, absolute guaranteed luck. Your attacks also became way more likely to land critical hits. On top of that, while training in the Xuanhundao scripture, you came across an interesting technique. It was called Netherworld Deadlock. The effect, drag any cultivator below the grand completion stage into a pocket dimension and force a one-on-one duel. And you'd gain 30% of their power as a boost on top of that. Pretty busted skill, but then, one day, you stepped outside ready to do your usual farming, when a sprouting fruit tree right in front of you caught your eye. Staring at the new little fruit growing there, something just clicked in your head. You entered a state of enlightenment. Time rushed by. You sat there in place for decades without even realizing it. Then one day, someone cut the tree down, and just like that, you snapped back to reality. Turned out it was just an ordinary woodcutter. He gave you a heads up that there were dangerous beasts in the mountains, then packed up his wood and left. Right then, the system notification chimed in. Powered by luck, you've gained insight into time. You've obtained beginner time comprehension. You scratched your head, a little confused, not quite sure what you'd even figured out. But the next second, you spotted a flower in full bloom, and a new idea hit you out of nowhere. Your eyes lit up with a flash of white light, and the blooming flower right in front of you instantly began to wither. Within just a few breaths, it had completely dissolved. You had a pretty solid grasp of how to use it now. No more overthinking. You started making your way leisurely down the mountain. On the way down, you poured points into strength, pushing it all the way to 85. More than doubled. The sudden power spike was intense. It took leveling a few mountains. Before you finally got your strength under control. Meanwhile, back at the Imperial Palace, Qingyao was tending to the flowers she'd planted in the garden. After a simple watering, she zoned out and started staring into space. By normal human standards, she'd be a grandmother by now. But after training in the Zhuanhun Dao scripture, she still looked like an 18-year-old. And her cultivation had been skyrocketing throughout all these years. Just as she was lost in thought, a voice laced with a smile suddenly drifted over. "Penny for your thoughts?" Qingyao froze the instant she heard it. Her eyes immediately filled with tears as she turned around. A familiar figure was standing there, smiling warmly at her. There you were, right in the middle of the Song Imperial Palace garden, grinning at Qingyao, while the tears on her face just couldn't stop falling. Through her tears, she asked, the question she'd been holding in this whole time. "Why didn't you take me with you?" You just smiled and answered, "Because I said we'd meet again." Qingyao wiped her tears, then pouted and said, "I just didn't think it'd take this long." You smiled softly and tried to comfort her. Qingyao puffed up her cheeks and muttered, "By normal people's count, I'd be a grandma by now."
我都是老奶奶了。
You just shook your head with a laugh. "To me, you're still the same little girl." Hearing that, Qingyao's mood did a full 180. She was laughing and crying at the same time. Finally, she dried her eyes and asked, "So, when are you leaving this time?" You gave her a quick rundown. You weren't planning on going anywhere this time around. You were here to stay and train. Qingyao blinked, then immediately lit up. But before she could even enjoy the moment, you were already asking about her training progress, so you got the full update. Qingyao had been making insane progress in the Zhuanhun Dao scripture. She'd already condensed 50 strands of Zhuanhun Qi. You also realized that even though Qingyao's cultivation rank wasn't that high, she hadn't aged at all. And it was because the Zhuanhun Dao scripture massively extends one's lifespan. So Qingyao had zero worries about growing old, at least for now. Qingyao beamed, then started showing you around the palace. But the sight of it absolutely terrified the eunuchs nearby. They couldn't wrap their heads around why the noble Lady Yueji was happily tagging along beside you. While they were nervously watching from a distance, someone suddenly appeared. It was the current Crown Prince of Song. He looked over at you two with a slight frown. Seeing Qingyao's radiant smile and how incredibly young you looked, his mind started racing, and then it hit him all at once. Wait, could this be the Imperial Advisor? He steadied his nerves and stepped forward right away. He clasped his hands respectfully and said, "I'm Song Nan, it's an honor to meet you, Imperial Advisor." You glanced over and casually asked, "You figured it out, huh?" I noticed Lady Yuej seemed pretty happy, so I figured I'd take a shot and come pay my respects, Master. You gave a small nod, then waved your hand and sent him off. As he bowed out, he called Song Baidian over to meet you. Soon enough, the old Song Baidian shuffled up in front of you and respectfully said, "Foster father." You looked him over and let out a soft laugh. Long time no see. Song Baidian kept nodding, clearly a little worked up. 50 years, foster father. 50 years. You let a small smile creep onto your face. Did you actually miss me? That caught Song Baidian off guard. He went quiet for a moment, then answered honestly, "Not when I was young." "But now that I'm old, yeah, I do." Back when Song Baidian was young and hot-headed, sure, he called you foster father. But you were the kind of force that kept the whole world in check. As emperor, that wasn't exactly comfortable for him. But after you disappeared for decades, and as the years caught up with him, his gratitude and longing for you just kept growing. You looked at the sincere old man in front of you and laughed, patting his head. "Honestly, I didn't really miss you that much. I'm back now, and I might be staying a good while. Hope that's not a problem." Song Baidian quickly nodded. "Of course not. As long as Great Song still stands. You're welcome to stay as long as you like." He bowed out smoothly, and right after, you let out a big yawn. You just started thinking about how to form your golden core when Qingyao walked up, eyeing you curiously. She asked, "What are you thinking about?" And without even thinking, you blurted out, "You." Qingyao's cheeks went red in an instant. She got all flustered. I'm literally right here. Why would you need to think about me?" You went quiet for a second, glanced at her, and replied, "Seeing someone makes you think of them. That's just how it works." Qingyao lit up like she just caught you slipping, smiling as she pushed. "That's really normal?" You paused again, then nodded. "Yeah, it really is." And Qingyao smiled even bigger after that. Just like that, 2 months slipped by hanging out and goofing around with Qingyao. Come the 3rd month, you started your core formation session. Sitting inside, spiritual energy gathering all around you, running the grand turtle breath technique to form your core. Back when you were reading through the Zhuanhun Daozhang, you'd noticed that the type of golden core you form depends on what cultivation method you use. There's the earth core, the human core, and the heaven core. Core formation is insanely dangerous for most people, but your luck stat is off the charts, so everything just fell into place. Half a month later, you'd already done it. But the moment you looked at your golden core, you were honestly a little shook. There was a 7-colored golden core spinning inside you. But the Zhuanhun Daozhang said cores only come in 3, 4, or 5 colors. You stared at it for a few seconds, then decided to just let it go. A core is a core, whatever. And you could feel it too. Forming the golden core meant you truly stepped onto the path of cultivation. You could now create your own divine abilities from scratch. You already had a few ideas brewing and wanted to try them out. You stepped out of your room, but the second you opened the door, you found Qingyao standing outside with a dead serious look on her face. With a candied hawthorn skewer hanging out of her mouth, you gave her a puzzled look. "What are you thinking about?" The second she heard you, Qingyao immediately finished the skewer and turned to face you. She mumbled, "You're out." You nodded, then smiled and asked, "What were you even doing out here?" Qingyao gave a serious nod. "You were forming your golden core." "That's a big deal. I figured I'd stand guard every single day. Make sure nobody bothered you." You looked at serious little Qingyao and laughed. "Honestly, that must have been rough on you." Qingyao gave a small smile, then seemed to remember something. A skewer of candied hawthorn appeared in her hand. She smiled and held it out. "Saved this one for you." You took it and asked, curiously, "When did you save this? It's been so long." "How's it not bad yet?" Qingyao raised an eyebrow, looking pretty proud of herself. She grinned. "I brought 2 every single day. The moment you came out, I'd give you 1. If you didn't show up, I'd just eat it myself the next day." You grabbed the skewer and just went respect. The 2 of you shared a look and laughed. then stood there munching away with big goofy grins on your faces. After finishing, Kung Yao shyly held out a handkerchief, head slightly lowered. She quietly said, "Here, wipe your mouth too." You decided to tease her a little and said with a straight face, "You don't have bad breath, do you?" Kung Yao's face went beet red. She snapped back with her hands on her hips. "I absolutely do not. My mouth smells amazing. My spit probably smells good too. Don't believe me? Come smell it yourself." She opened her mouth wide, daring you to check. What she didn't expect was that you actually leaned in. And yeah, there was a light, delicate sweetness. "You were just about to pull back when Kung Yao stopped you," she said, still proud. "My spit smells good too, you know." You hesitated for a second, and Kung Yao's face went even redder, tears starting to well up in her eyes. She finally stuttered out, "Do you want to taste it?" Faced with a Kung Yao like that, you didn't say a word. You just let your actions do the talking. A moment later, you asked, "Are you really ready for this?" Kung Yao had the sweetest smile on her face. She nodded. "I've been waiting decades for this." You both smiled at each other, and in the days that followed, Kung Yao suddenly decided she wanted to learn swordsmanship. You didn't think twice and started teaching her. But one day, Kung Yao hit you with a question. "Hey Q, do you like light yellow dresses?" You didn't answer right away. Instead, you tossed it back. "Well, do you like them?" Kung Yao frowned and thought hard about it for a while, but still couldn't decide. Seeing that, you smiled. "Honestly, I think a light yellow dress would look really good on you." Just like that, Kung Yao stopped frowning and stopped stressing. She smiled and nodded. "Then light yellow is officially my favorite color." Time flew by. Not long after, Emperor Song Baidian passed away. But before he went, he begged you to watch over Great Song. Looking at the old man, you finally agreed. "Natural disasters I'll handle. Human conflicts, not my problem." Crown Prince Song Nan took the throne and still treated you with total respect, consulting you on state affairs. But after a couple times you told him to figure it out himself. From that day on, a legend was left behind in the cultivation world.